Have you ever just looked at yourself and wondered why our bodies seem so flawed? I mean, why do we get sick? Why do things just seem to break down? And why do we have parts that seem totally useless? Well, today we're going to dive into exactly that. We're looking at health, but not just through a medical lens, or bringing in the super powerful perspective of evolutionary biology.
I mean, it's the big question, right? You'd think that after millions of years of evolution, we'd be a little bit better at this whole staying alive and healthy thing. So why do our bodies seem so vulnerable to so many problems?
Just think about the laundry list of issues we deal with. We've got wisdom teeth that just don't fit in our mouths. The appendix, which for most of us is just waiting for a reason to get infected. Our arteries seem designed to clog up. Childbirth is incredibly dangerous because of our anatomy. And of course, our own cells can turn against us and become cancerous. These aren't just rare glitches, they're practically standard features. So what is going on?
To really get to the bottom of this, we have to look at a pretty surprising gap. A huge canyon, really, that's existed for a long time between two fields that you'd think would be best friends, medicine and evolutionary biology.
Look, modern medicine is incredible. It can tell you with mind-blowing detail how a heart attack happens. You know, the mechanics of the plaque, the blockage, all the damage that follows. But what it often misses is that deeper evolutionary question. Why are our arteries even built in a way that makes them so prone to clogging? That why question, that's the missing link.
And hey, this isn't just a hunch. You can actually see it in the data. If you look at how scientific fields cite each other's work, you see this giant gap. There's almost no connection. Medical journals almost never cite research from evolution journals. It's basically a one-way street, which means medicine has been fighting with one hand tied behind its back, using only about half of biology's toolkit.
So what happens when we start to build that bridge between the two? Well, we begin to ask completely different kinds of questions. And that requires a major shift in how we think about the human body itself.
You know, a lot of us, and that includes plenty of doctors, we tend to think of the body like it's a machine. It's got parts, it's got systems, and when a part breaks, a doctor tries to fix it. But here's the thing. That metaphor is totally misleading. Our bodies were never designed on some engineer's blueprint with health and happiness as the main goal.
So this is the big aha moment. Our bodies aren't finely tuned machines. They are, as the experts say, bundles of compromises. They were shaped by natural selection, yes, but its one and only so-called goal is to maximize reproduction, to get genes into the next generation. Now, being healthy is often pretty useful for that, but it has never, ever been the top priority.
This brings us to two really different ways of asking questions. Medicine is fantastic at what we call proximate questions. That's the how. How does the liver function? How does a virus make copies of itself? But evolution asks the ultimate or evolutionary questions. That's the why. Why is the liver designed that way to begin with? Why are we so vulnerable to that particular virus? And to really get the full picture of any disease, you absolutely need both.
Okay, let's make this super concrete with a really cool example. Let's talk about jaundice. That's when your skin turns yellow. It's caused by a chemical called bilirubin, and for ages, medical textbooks have just called it a toxic waste product. But when you ask an evolutionary question, a whole new story opens up. So check out this puzzle. When your old red blood cells break down, they turn into a chemical called biliverdin. Now, biliverdin is water-soluble, which means it's really easy for the body to get rid of. But then, the body actually spends energy to convert that harmless chemical into bilirubin, a toxin that's much harder to get rid of. Why on earth would it do that? That's like taking your nicely sorted recycling and just dumping it back into the trash can. From an engineering point of view, it makes zero sense.
But the evolutionary answer is just, wow. It turns out bilirubin isn't just waste. It's actually one of the most powerful antioxidants in your body. It protects your cells from the kind of damage that leads to aging and disease. So your body is intentionally making this supposed toxin because its benefits as a cellular bodyguard are absolutely huge.
And get this has real measurable effects. There's a harmless genetic condition called Gilbert's disease where people naturally have higher levels of bilirubin, and the result? They have a 6 times lower rate of heart disease. A so-called waste product is actually a powerful defense mechanism. That's the kind of thing you discover when you start asking why.
So this whole way of thinking gives us a complete framework for understanding why we're so vulnerable to disease. Evolutionary medicine basically breaks it down into 6 main reasons we get sick. Let's run through them.
First up, mismatch. Our bodies and our genes were shaped for life in a hunter-gatherer world. But now, We live in a world of desk jobs, supermarkets, and screens. That deep craving we have for sugar, salt, and fat was a lifesaver when calories were hard to come by. Today, it just leads to things like obesity and diabetes. Our ancient biology is mismatched with our modern world.
Number 2. We are not alone. We're locked in a never-ending arms race with germs, bacteria, viruses, all of them. The problem is, they can evolve in a matter of hours or days. We evolve over thousands of years. We're just not on the same time scale. This is why you'll never see a permanent cure for the common cold, and why antibiotic resistance is such a terrifying problem. They just evolve way faster than we do.
Third, evolution has its limits. It's constrained. It can't just design a perfect solution from scratch. It can only tinker and modify what's already there. Plus, some changes in our DNA are basically invisible to natural selection. For example, a tiny mutation in a gene might not change the protein it makes, so selection can't see it to select for or against it, even if another version might be better in the long run.
Number 4, and this one is huge, every single thing is a trade-off. There's no such thing as a free lunch in biology. A perfect example is telomeres, the little caps on our chromosomes. They get shorter every time a cell divides, and this helps prevent cancer. Great, right? But the trade-off is that this exact same process is a key reason we age. You get one benefit, but it comes at a cost.
Okay, number 5, and this one can be a little tough to swallow. Natural selection does not care about your health or your happiness once you're past your reproductive years. Its one priority is getting genes passed on. So, a gene that helps you have more children when you're young will absolutely be favored, even if that very same gene makes you fall apart when you're 60.
And finally, number 6. We almost always mistake the body's defenses for the disease itself. A fever isn't the infection, it's your body trying to literally cook the invaders to death. A cough isn't the flu, it's your body's way of violently throwing it out. Yeah, these symptoms feel terrible, but they are actually sophisticated, evolved defense mechanisms.
So, why are these defenses so miserable and feel so over the top? Well, it's something called the smoke detector principle. Think about it. You put up with your smoke detector screaming at you when you burn toast because you absolutely cannot afford for it to fail you when there's a real fire. Your body works the same way. The cost of a fever when you don't really need one is pretty low, but the cost of not having a strong enough fever when you're fighting a deadly infection could be, well, fatal. Our bodies are designed to be better safe than sorry.
So when you put all of this together, it's not just a collection of fun facts. It gives us a completely new way to look at our health, our bodies, and our diseases. It really gives medicine the biological foundation it's been missing.
Now, to be perfectly clear, this isn't about telling you to throw out what your doctor says. An evolutionary framework doesn't usually give us a new pill to take tomorrow. But what it does do is provide an amazing system for organizing the thousands of facts a doctor has to learn. It helps researchers ask better questions, which leads to breakthroughs like the bilirubin story, and it gives us all a much more complete picture of the human body.
So we kind of end up back where we started, but with a whole new perspective. Our bodies aren't perfect machines that were designed for our health. They're messy, they're full of compromises, but they are still remarkable products of an evolutionary story that prioritized one thing above all else. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. If all that is true, what does it really mean for any of us to be healthy?